Welcome to the Rise of the Moderate podcast, episode 5. I only have a few minutes today, so I'm gonna try to make this one quick. But I feel it's important to address the recent ban on travel to the U.S. from many Muslim nations, and I want to discuss how this makes the U.S. less secure instead of more secure. Now there's plenty to discuss on this issue. But like I said, I'm squeezed for time, so I won't get too far into the lack of evidence to support this ban. I mean, really, there is no evidence. I've been telling my conservative friends, please show me the incidents. Any incidents since 9/11 when Al-Qaeda or ISIS were able to send terrorists over here to commit acts of terrorism. They haven't been able to do it. You've had random radicalized lone gunmen who are already over here commit some violence, but really that's no different than Christians shooting up abortion clinics. So ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they haven't been able to get terrorists over here. The policies of George W. Bush and Barack Obama have worked. So if you have any evidence out there, know of any incidents in that contradicts that, please let me know, because I don't see any evidence to support the threat of this threat of terror, of them getting terrorists over here, and to support this ban on travel from Muslim countries. I also am not going to get into how this is an affront to religious freedom and the principles that our nation was founded on. I mean, I could spend an hour just reading you quotes from our founding fathers on how much they valued religious freedom, but I won't. I'll read a couple. I'll read a couple quotes since I have them right here in front of me. So, from Thomas Jefferson, 1799, he says, "I am for freedom of religion and against all maneuvers to bring about a legal ascendancy of one sect over another." What he's saying there, he doesn't want to make any religion, that would include Christianity, any more important than any other religion in the U.S. This is a quote from George Washington, September 1789, speaking to the annual meeting of Quakers. "The liberty enjoyed by the people of these states of worshiping Almighty God agreeably to their consciences is not only among the choicest of their blessings, but also of their rights." Now, George Washington, also in 1789, speaking to the United Baptist Churches in Virginia, said, "If I could have entertained the slightest apprehension that the Constitution framed in the Convention, where I had the honor to preside, might possibly endanger the religious rights of any society, certainly I would have never placed my signature to it. And if I could now conceive that the general government might ever be so administered as to render the liberty of conscience insecure, I beg you will be persuaded that no one should be more zealous than myself to establish effectual barriers against the horrors of spiritual tyranny and every species of religious persecution." So there's George Washington, and I will never be narrating any audible books. I'm just reading off the cuff here, but that's George Washington, and I could go on for an hour reading quotes from our founders on religious freedom, but I won't. So but I'll post them on Twitter and on Facebook. So make sure to follow us. It's facebook.com/Rise of the Moderates, and we're at Twitter at Rise of Moderates. I could also get into the erroneous claims that coming from conservatives that Obama did the same thing. But there's plenty of information floating around out there now that proves it's a completely different ban. Obama, he set up those countries. He had a travel warning through those countries, and if you did travel to those countries, you were subject to extra vetting. This is not the scope and scale of Trump's ban. There was also an incident in 2011 in which he temporarily paused immigration but it was limited to one country. It was limited to Iraq, and it was in response to a specific threat. And it was quickly dealt with, and they banned visas for a few months, and it's a completely different scale. Trump's order is far wider, and doesn't even have a specific threat that it addresses. It's just kind of a nebulous idea and concern. So since this ban is aimed at trying to make America more safe, I want to talk a little bit about how it does the exact opposite. Now, often war, and we are in a conflict, a war, I guess you could say, with Muslim extremism. But often war is much more about marketing than it is about weaponry or soldiers on the ground. Not accepting that, not understanding that, was a reason we lost in Vietnam. It's a lesson we should have learned from Vietnam, and it's something we didn't quite grasp during the Cold War, when you had places like Nicaragua and Cuba where communism just had better marketing. It was more appealing, and we did not make a good case for against it or for our own system. So conflict is as much about marketing as it is about your weapons, and this conflict that we have with Muslim extremism right now is very much about marketing. It is very much about trying to capture the hearts and minds of the populace, of the general public in those Muslim countries. We want to talk to those moderates. We want the moderate Muslims. We want to encourage that. Most people around the world are just like most people in the U.S. They want a job. They want to have a good living. They want to raise their kids, have them have their kids live a good life, and despite what you might hear on some of the blogs and conservative websites out there, that's the same way people are in the Middle East for the most part. They're just like you and me. Now, yeah, you could be shaped by, you could watch the news and think they're just all crazy and that they're all religious extremists, when all you see are people on TV in crowds or chanting something like "Death to America," or all you see are terrorist acts on TV and people killing innocent people. But that's just a small slice, a small segment. If you've ever traveled over there, if you've ever met Muslim people, you know that the vast majority of them are just regular people, just trying to survive, just trying to get by, and they want a better life. Now, if you're a Muslim and you don't have much, you don't have maybe you're living in a country where the economy is terrible and you can't get a job and you're just struggling to feed your family and educate your family, and there's little hope for a better life for your children. Well, as a parent, you get desperate. As a young man or woman, as a child coming up, as a late teenager or somebody in their early 20s, coming of age, and if you're somebody like that who is coming of age in one of these countries and you don't see the prospects of a better life for you, if you don't feel like you have any hope, well, you're going to get angry. You're going to get mad. You're going to want to blame somebody. And then if you feel like your nation is run by somebody who's keeping you down, maybe somebody who the U.S. or Europe supports, then you see the U.S. and Europe as an enemy, because they're instituting this government, they're backing this government and keeping you down. Or maybe you feel like nobody in the West is helping you, nobody is interested in you. Maybe you resent the West for having so much. Or maybe you're just looking for a bad guy, and maybe you resent the West for backing Israel, and then you see, from your point of view, Israel maybe suppressing or oppressing fellow Muslims. There's a lot of ways you can get mad, a lot of ways you can get angry, and when you have no hope, you want to change. You get desperate, and you want to change something, and you want to lash out and act. And that's how the seeds of terrorism and Muslim extremism are planted. Now you have a group like Al Qaeda or ISIS, and they come along and they say, embrace your Muslim background. Take pride in it. In fact, we're going to take up arms and we're going to fight. Join this great cause. Have pride in yourself and fight. Join us and fight. Well, that's going to be pretty appealing, especially when you have nothing else. So if the U.S. is going to win this war against Muslim extremism, we have to find a way to capture the hearts and minds of regular Muslims, of moderate Muslims. Now, instead of showing that we're friends and that we're good guys, this move by Trump, this sloppy, terribly executed ban, just reinforces the idea that we view Muslims, all Muslims, as the enemy. Because this is hurting regular Muslims, the regular people who are trying to carve out a life here in the U.S., or people who have family here in the U.S., maybe just want to come visit them, or work here, or have business that they have to do here, or it is any number of things. But the one thing it doesn't really help is stop terrorism, because our previous policies have worked beautifully in stopping terrorism. So all this does is feed the idea that we hate Muslims. And it is a perfect gift to ISIS, because they understand that this war is as much about marketing as it is about anything else. That this war is about capturing the hearts and minds of Muslims, especially young Muslims. So you might as well just put this on a silver platter and handed it to them, because this is exactly what they need to recruit and to stay strong and to feed that feeling. Now, not only is this a problem over there, but if you're a young Muslim here in the U.S., and this country just elected a president who wanted to ban Muslims from coming over here, whose backers are unabashedly racist. If you're a young Muslim on Facebook or Twitter and you see some of the almost all of the comments from Trump backers, it's racist, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to sting, and you are going to start feeling that this country that you live in, even if you're an American citizen, hates you, that you don't belong, that you're an outsider. And when you feel like that, it is human nature to want to fight back. Now this ban is going to stir a lot of anger. It's going to stir a lot of anger among Muslim Americans. And you can bet that this will push some to be radicalized. I mean, statistically, we're talking probably about a fraction of a percent. But one gunman is going to make the news. And then, of course, Trump and his supporters will say, see, we told you. We told you. We were right. When they couldn't be any farther from the truth. Because it is this ban that is making a scenario like that even more likely. There will be an attack because of this. There will be Muslims here radicalized because our government is treating them like the enemy. There will be a boost in Muslim extremism in the Middle East. And all of this makes us less safe, less secure. Donald Trump is weakening America on this front against terrorism. And if that wasn't bad enough, he's weakening us on other fronts as well. But we'll talk more about that in upcoming episodes. Anyway, I said I wanted to keep this one short. It's going a little longer than I had hoped. But thank you for listening. Please follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Rise of the Moderates, and on Twitter at Rise of Moderates, not .com, just Rise of Moderates. All right, thanks for listening. Take care.